Okay, we're live. Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Welcome to another edition of the WUFO live stream. We are like over the moon excited to have Steve Berg with us, host of Hi Strangeness. So is it like Hi Strangeness or
That's it. Well, I feel like it can reflect the mood you're in. You're like, hi, strangeness. If you're tired of this stuff or it's bumming you out, most of the time I operate under hi, strangeness. I'm welcoming it into the life. The positivity, the wonderfulness of it. It's all beautiful. I love stories.
Yes. Well, we're really happy to have you here. This is very exciting.
Honored to be here.
Just kind of started. Oh gosh, when did we like reboot our WUFO live streams recently? January? I don't know.
Yeah.
Time is really become a flat circle.
It was before the holidays. There was a break for the holidays. I think it was sometime in November.
CJ.
You would have to then, because I went and did Cornhenge for Christmas.
You did, yeah.
Cornhenge?
That's right.
Yes.
I gotta
It is
know a little bit about this.
It sounds like it should be in Nebraska.
Well, we have a henge ourselves. I'll go after. I want to hear about this.
Yeah,
I'm sorry to
Cornhenge-
interrupt you.
Oh no. Cornhenge is a statue park in Ohio, in Columbus, Ohio, that is basically just full of like 6 foot tall statues of corn, like ears of corn. That is a memorial to the former cornfield that used to be there. Now it's all industrial, but we did an experiment trying to summon a drone to Cornhenge. So we had everybody try and picture a drone, and it kind of worked. I found oranges at the and a helicopter flew past when I sang "Happy Birthday" with my roommate to the corn.
It was Cornhenge's birthday.
Yeah,
I want to know what is in the center of the triangle of Cornhenge, the Corn Palace, and Carhenge.
Oh,
To steal your thunder, Steve.
no, thank you. That's great. Wow, that made me so excited.
I did a weird road trip when I lived in Omaha, and so we went up to I-90 in South Dakota, and we stopped in like 1880 Cowboy Town and 1880 Town and like all the weird little roadside attractions and Wall Drug.
Wall Drug.
Came back down and stopped at Chimney Rock and Carhenge, and then we did the Kool-Aid Museum before we
There's a
came
Kool-Aid
back.
Museum?
It
Yeah.
was so good.
I don't know Nebraska at all. I know like Omaha area. That is it, because I have not lived here that long. So it's like that is all new to me. That is the exact trip you just described is one I am planning a solo venture in the spring.
I'll send you some details.
Please do. Please do.
venture.
I would really love that. I mean, like, oh, and also, Emily, I feel like we should circle back to corn as a concept, because it's something that's in my mind lately. So, and with Twin Peaks, yeah. I'm obsessed with corn and roads. Those are the motifs I am reading too much about. Can't stop.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. I mean, especially, because I'm from the Midwest, so it's kind of difficult to escape. And I have always felt, I went to school in Ball State in Muncie, Indiana. And my one premier memory, I didn't drive in college, so my dad had to come get me every time we had a break. And we got lost in the middle of cornfields once. And my dad was like, "Do you recognize any of this?" And I was like, "It's corn." Like, it literally all just looks like corn. Like, we could be in any cornfield in the US right now. And I think that is a really good, it sort of encompasses that weird, I don't want to say that corn feels liminal, but it does kind of, because it's such a generic, and that generic isn't quite the word, but it's such a, especially in the middle of the US, it's such a familiar thing that you're like somewhere, and also somewhere that you don't know at the same time. So it feels like it kind of that whole swath of the US. It's a very sort of rural, liminal feeling, and that's why I think the statue of corns is such a weird, it's like corn shouldn't be permanent. Like, corn goes away every year and then it comes back, and so the fact that there's like a permanent undying field of corn in Ohio has always been just so strange.
It's unnatural.
It is. I
love it.
Well, I accidentally grew corn 2 years ago in a house.
Accidentally?
accidentally, because I was trying to attract crows. I was trying to make friends with the crows, and we had a dog sitter come over, and she couldn't figure out why there were so many crows just on our porch every day. And I think that she started just throwing our bird food at them, which included corn that I didn't realize would actually grow it ended up somewhere. So I ended up with all this corn that I didn't mean to have. And it was like a weird, so corn is kind of an ongoing motif, I think, at this point. I don't have a corn snack today for the first time.
Look, I mean, we should do a sideshow called, corn pod corn or something. I mean, where it's just, we talk about corn every week. I mean, it is, it can be quite delicious, obviously, but there's more to it than that.
It's very versatile.
And speaking of Twin Peaks, it is one, if not the biggest motif going through that entire series. I think the show is just a metaphor for corn. That's my theory.
I actually, we're doing a rewatch, and I just finished the episode where the very first episode with the cream corn with Mrs. Tremont, and her grandson, who is David Lynch's son, right?
You can tell.
You can, totally. And that whole thing, it's so creepy. Those are the best. Those are.
She pointed out I went to Trader Joe's before this, so I did get corn. I'm good.
Yeah, you did.
I've got my corn.
You're participating. You don't even know it. We're all well, there is. I mean, gosh, and I will. Sorry, we can move on from corn. I just want to say one more thing. But recently, I believe it was in Mesoamerica. They had this kind of idea. Part of their mythology was that corn created human beings for us to take care of it.
Yeah,
I feel like aliens are the same thing.
Yeah, and I mean, when you ever want to get into high strangeness talk, I could tell you about other motifs I found in Nebraska with corn, because let me tell you, weird things happen around the corn and these parts.
When I was just gonna go on a corn side adventure,
we're all ears. I love that. That's great.
When I was growing up in Illinois, I grew up on a farm in the middle of nowhere, and we were literally warned as kids, stay away from the manure pit and stay out of the cornfields, because it's really easy to get lost in them.
Yeah.
Because they get taller than you pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. And it can be just incredibly disorienting.
Well,
Cooper in the Black Lodge is almost kind of like being lost in a cornfield.
He is.
Yeah, and kind of parting the curtains, and it's like you think you're going to emerge out of it, and you're more corn.
Endless corn. It's you're non-existent when you're in corn, maybe. And you know what else is interesting? Speaking of Midwest corn folklore, I learned this not that long ago. I was actually speaking at the Van Meter Visitor Festival and giving a little. I give a lot in the Midwest. I do a lot of talks about weird Nebraska because no one else is doing Nebraska. So I'm trying to do my part. Plus, I love talking about weird Nebraska. But this person came up to me, and he was a botanist, or he was a geneticist who dealt with agriculture, right? And he was actually from the York area of Nebraska, now lives in Iowa, but he works has a very legitimate job. And he kind of pulled me aside, like, "Can I talk to you when you're done talking?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course." So we talked to him, and he goes, "This is going to sound crazy, but have you ever heard of the corn wolves?" And I'm like, "No, that sounds awesome. Please tell me more." And he was saying, well, when he grew up in Nebraska, that all the parents and his grandparents would say, "Do not go in the cornfield tonight because the corn wolves will get you, and they're real." And so it was kind of like one of those, don't go into the forest because there's many metaphorical, allegorical things with this. But supposedly people actually, quote unquote, maybe hyperstitionally saw these things. I am kind of this weird, I don't know where I fall with all, what all this stuff is, but I feel like maybe this stuff is all made of stories and it sometimes manifests with our folklore. That's I got really off the deep end there, but anyways, corn, love it. Could talk about it all day, obviously.
Well, go ahead, Kai.
I have to know, what does a corn wolf look like? Does it resemble the corn at all? Does it kind of instead of fur have kind of like a corn husk and some of that silk to kind of blend in? The
most common description I've heard, and I saw a Reddit thread, not that this is a good source, but other people had these stories. So it happened in Iowa apparently too. But the way this guy described it, he did not see it, but he's like, my brother saw one. his brother's friends, apparently a group of people, like at this one time, there's like one summer before harvest, people were when the corn's really tall, we're seeing these corn wolves, and he said it was kind of apparitional, but it was big. He looked like did not look like it. Like it was so big. He's like, it was nothing, apparently it was nothing natural. It was just like very large, and it looked apparitional, kind of ghostly, like spirit, kind of phantomy. Cool.
Huh.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Anyways, corn, it's great.
It's a lot of connections happening.
Cornick. Yeah.
I had to.
What I was just thinking though is so we've kind of informally decided that 2025 is the year of actually touching grass. And we wanted to start like a very bare bones website called actuallytouchgrass.com. Was it did we get .com, Garrett?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Actually,
I think it's touchgrass.com, right, Garrett?
Is it?
I know it's actually touchgrass.com.
Oh, is it?
Actually touchgrass, yeah. And we were thinking like, anything that's, because I'm a big plant guy, like the whole plant families and plant and foraging and botany and all that stuff.
I hear that.
Corn is one of these things because that's in the grass family of plants, along with wheat and, bamboo and barley and all these other things. And so, technically doing something with corn counts as touching grass.
Yeah.
So,
is corn extra credit if you touch corn? 'Cause, I mean, you have to go out of your way unless you've grown corn like Emily accidentally. But,
that's right. Yes. Exactly. So, involving yourself with corn somehow, that counts.
I'm in. I mean, count me in. I will commit to that right now.
But so does like drinking beer, I think. I mean,
Ingesting grass?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do both, man. Just kidding. No, I'm not. What?
We've talked a lot before about corn and like the relationship, like I remember like how E.T. was first seen coming out of a cornfield, and then there's like the whole Demeter and Persephone, going down to the underworld and being kind of an abduction case, and she's the corn or kind of a grain goddess.
Yeah.
And then I remember we just like there's so much corn stuff that is related to this weird, but obviously like crop circles and.
Yep.
So so I'm glad you're bringing more. Like now we have corn wolves to add to this list of.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I should brush up on this. I read what is the book, The Secret Commonwealth? The book.
Oh,
yeah. Right. And I went through a big Fae phase. Phase. That's hard to say. But I feel like the Fae connection is. I'm very into it. I think that there's something to it. I mean, I don't know what exactly, but either folklorically for sure. Anyway, what was I saying? I can't remember. I'm off track.
Corn.
The Fae and corn.
No,
Commonwealth.
Yes, thank you. But the Celtic fairy faith I know has their own perception of corn related to the Fae as well. I just can't remember what it is, but now I'm gonna have to look it up.
Well, there's corn, like the corn just means grain traditionally, what we think of as corn is, the maize, the New World maize. So I think that, whatever, when they talk about corn spirit, like you could find talk of corn spirits in European folklore going back well before the discovery of the of the New World and New World.
A lot of air quotes tonight.
And so they could have meant like barley or like totally. Demeter and Persephone and the corn maiden myths. They were probably talking about like rye and barley, not like maize.
Right.
Maize.
This is making me wonder about the etymology. I'm like thinking about what of all those things have in common, and maybe it's like those little knobbly, how like things in the grass family have those like kind of like visible bunched seeds. I mean, I guess I could use lay duck duck go to ask about the etymology, but it's better to just ponder sometimes.
Well, so there's one thing I was doing some research into like uses of grass for this silly little grass side project, and it reminded me that like buckwheat is not in the grass family. Buckwheat is totally different. It's like related to rhubarbs.
Interesting.
But it's used, kind of as a grain, and it was referenced in like one of the so first of all, Joe Simonton, right? His pancakes were made from buckwheat.
Mm-hmm.
Well, just the other day, I found there's a new translation of what's known as like it's related to like the Greek magical papyri tradition of it's called like the Mithra ritual or something like that. I don't know. I put it on Blue Sky, and I was looking at the ingredient, sort of because it's got these sort of like it's a ritual for contacting Helios, the sun god, and Mithras, and in typical fashion, there's a lot of like, so in the Greek magical papyri, there's a lot of like breathing and like hissing, and it'll be like make a loud roaring noise and click your tongue 3 times and stuff like that. But then the more you read, the more it's like, okay, you'll see the sun, it'll appear as a shining disc, and the disc will open and you'll see a figure, and 5 pointed stars will come out of the disc and fly through the sky. And I'm like, holy shit, this is like CE5 from the ancient world. Like, it's totally like an abduction experience, like writ large. And so I was looking at the ingredients for doing the ritual, and one of the ingredients, this herb, the description of it is buckwheat or dock, like, which is in the buckwheat family. And I'm like, wait a second here, there's something there.
Yeah,
so
I love where your head's at.
To do with corn, but I just
but it does. That's tangentially corn approved. I think like that is really interesting.
Yeah, it's so weird.
Yes.
The way that you were just describing that also made me think of for Imbolc, the St. Bridget's, like the that you fold out of, is it wheat?
The like wheat cross, yeah.
Yeah.
But it has that kind of almost star shape to it, like a wheat star.
Right.
I did have to look up about corn. It's like the Latin roots of it have to do with horn. But I guess also, according to the internet, the British definition of corn, and I'm assuming this is historic and not now, that it is the chief cereal crop of a district. So corn could be wheat or oats. So I guess kind of like Coke can be Sprite in the South.
Right. It's a catch-all.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
And maize comes from the Caribbean, from a language that is extinct now, so we don't know like what the original root meant.
Huh.
I went down the same rabbit hole.
This is great. I mean, God, I love this corn talk.
Yeah,
this is wonderful.
Welcome.
I have found some kindred spirits here, I think.
Absolutely.
We have a lot of corn. We have a lot of corn talk, actually. I feel like every day there's corn talk. Yeah. I think it was partially my fault when I accidentally grew the corn. It like springboarded us into all these other corn thoughts that we were having.
Yeah.
And now the corn train has just not stopped. But that's fine. That's fine with me.
I believe it's part of the corn prophecy that, an Emily will accidentally grow corn and will spark a corn revolution amongst weirdos. And
that's it. Exactly.
Corn disclosure. We want to know. I want congressional hearings.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So somebody had just mentioned that. Yeah. So the buckwheat in Joe Simonton's pancakes. That's what we were mentioning.
Hell yeah.
Was such an odd. I don't know if it is an odd coincidence or if buckwheat is just, because wild buckwheat, it's a plant called dock, and it grows everywhere. And it's just, you can use it just like buckwheat. But it's a little more difficult to process because it's wild. So I'm wondering if, trying wild buckwheat, this dock maybe we should try the Mithras liturgy on WUFO.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. Is it something like you think we could handle? Is it? It
might, we have to modify it, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It'd be like, it's like I don't know. We'd have to think about it. I don't want to like induce an abduction experience in someone who doesn't have
Yeah.
consent, you know?
I don't think so.
Right.
Yeah. So
I'll eat the buckwheat.
I'll do it too. Yeah, obviously. You want to have me back. Yeah, I'm happy to eat. I'm take one for the team.
Yeah, it does feel Eucharistic.
Yeah.
We made
Someone
the
said in the comments.
Yeah.
That's very good.
Yeah, we made the
Jeremy-
pancakes and they did not taste good. They were
If you used Doc and you made a flour from it,
Mhm.
would there be something at some point that would kill any native yeast in that preparation process? Or is it possible that if you use native Doc that you would actually get kind of a fermented or kind of sourdoughy sort of situation that might be slightly tastier?
Yeah, you could do that. The only thing is that Doc flour by itself, just like buckwheat flour, doesn't have gluten in it. So you need some kind of binding agent to kind of hold it together. But the actual, like the grinding of the Doc seeds to make flour, that shouldn't kill the native yeast. But you know what? Let's try.
Yeah. I like this spirit.
I mean, yeast is everywhere, right? So even if it's not coming off of the dock itself, it should be coming into whatever dough you're making in the general vicinity. I would assume, from what I've heard.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can gather wild yeast from anything, but some things collect it better. Like pine cones collect it really well. Any fruit or berry that has like that waxy kind of feeling on it. Like out here, it's like Oregon grape, but like some plums, that sort of like white sheet, that's wild yeast. So
Oh, I didn't know that was yeast. The term was like glaucusness when I learned it in botany class. But the glaucusness comes from not just the plant, but is also yeast.
Mhm.
That is fascinating. I
Yeah.
did not know that.
Yeah, and you can drop a few pine cones into a jar with some like honey and water, and it'll ferment. You'll get a fizzy soda that you keep adding sugar to it, and it'll turn into booze.
Really now?
Sounds amazing.
That sounds like a fun experiment.
Yeah.
Very cool.
You can also homebrew with wild yeast. I used to work at a brewery out in the gorge, and one year we did. Our head brewer, who is like wild and amazing, went out to like 4 different spots and just like left buckets out, and then we ended up with, I think, 20 different like samples that we did, like little batches, and some of them were terrible. And some and it was the same like base ingredients. It was really just the yeast changing the flavor. But we got like, I think we ended up doing 3 or 4, and we did flights of them. They were some of my favorite beers we ever made.
Oh
But I
wow.
it's sour.
Wild
That's cool.
fermentation is a gamble, but it can turn out nice.
Wow. I am learning a lot.
Yeah, there's an author, one of my favorite like wild foods author. His name is Pascal Baudard.
Great wild food name.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, he doesn't just forage for food, he forages for like clay to make pottery, and he forages for like wood to make into his carving spoons and stuff like that. And dirt, like he makes spice blends out of like the forest floor.
Oh.
He'll go to where you can find these like whatever the edible plants are in that region, and like scoop up some soil and make a spice blend out of it. And I like, it's amazing. But he does a whole book on wild fermentation, and it's fantastic. Definitely worth looking into.
That is amazing. This reminds me, Steve, what did you have for dinner?
Oh, well, thank you for asking. I had a classic French style roast chicken.
That does sound good.
Yeah, it was nice. A little, rosemary, thyme, and it was a cold winter's day. I had that, and a nice kind of like Greek style salad with a little feta on top.
perfect.
And I was gonna make like some kind of potato thing, and then I got like kind of distracted by some work stuff. So I just had the salad and chicken, and it was great, light and lively, So
Yeah.
but it was quite. Thank you for asking. That's so kind of you. It really was. It was nice though. How about you? I would love to know what you love for dinner.
Chicken broccoli rice casserole that my partner made with
Yes.
Italian breadcrumbs on top. Very easy, very great. I'm usually the one that cooks, so it was nice to have someone else cook. I don't care what it is. If someone else makes it, it's wonderful.
It's such a great time of year for casserole. I love casserole. And now, what kind of noodle was it? A noodle or rice?
It was rice. Very
Well,
basic.
oh, I love a rice casserole. I really do. My grandma made something similar, and I loved it as a kid. That sounds fantastic.
It's really good. Yeah. I feel like going with the green theme, like I don't do gluten very well, so I've tried to experiment with all of the different gluten-free noodles.
Yeah.
And nothing is really the same, but
it's not, I a lot of times will eat like a brown rice noodle, and then when I'm feeling a little wild, I'll go with like, the semolina flour because I love it because it is so delicious. But a lot of times I will, if I want to like protect my stomach a little bit, if I, like, like don't have like, it's almost like being hungover for me the next day. It's like, if I eat like a lot of pasta, I'm like, well, I probably shouldn't have anything to do until like 2:00 because I'm just going to be like, oh, I'm tired.
I am super tired for some reason. It makes me tired. It's like you're bread drunk.
I know. That's right.
Use more buckwheat flour without gluten, and then you'll be,
Yeah, you'll know you're not wrong. I mean, like I do. I cook a lot of different kinds of Asian food, and so I use a lot of rice noodles in general. So and soba noodles are really like pretty like low impact on the stomach too, I think.
And they're so good.
They're really good. Really
Definitely.
good.
Ooh, cold soba noodles with like sesame oil and sesame seeds and some green scallions on top.
Do not even. Don't even. Don't you do it.
Tiny cube tofu. All right.
Oh, stop. I'm a big tofu guy too.
Yeah.
I've been a vegetarian probably for more of my life than I have been a meat eater. Now, I don't eat that much meat. My wife doesn't eat that much meat, but like I love tofu. It is so cheap. And if you know what you're doing, like I'm telling you, it's phenomenal. People who don't get tofu, I'm like, chicken doesn't taste good unless you do something to it. Like it's you have to put a little TLC into it, and tofu is going to be your friend.
Yeah, the fact that you can marinate tofu is amazing. I still don't know how to cook it very well without it falling apart. That's okay.
Now, if you want to marinate tofu, I want to give one little tip. If you get your block of tofu from Trader Joe's or whatever, Trader Joe's has excellent tofu, I think.
Yeah, they do.
They really do. It's kind of my favorite. I put it sometimes I'll put it in the freezer. And when you put it in the freezer, it changes the molecular structure of it. And there's like more little air pockets in the middle. Mm-hmm. And it's like a sponge, and it will absorb flavor. In fact, it'll get to the middle a little bit. Like, it is such a good way to marinate tofu. It changed my life.
Yeah.
I'm writing a book about tofu, actually, right now.
Amazing. There's a Thai food place here that is amazing, and it's in the U District. It's just this little hole in the wall place. It's cash only. It's called Thai Tom. And their fried tofu has changed my life. It's amazing. It's like little golden pillows of perfection. And they have to freeze it because it has that texture that that you just described, the air pockets and just the fluffy. So good.
Are you in Portland?
No, I'm in Seattle.
Seattle. Okay, I thought there was a place in Portland called Thai Tom, but maybe I'm thinking of another name.
There might be.
Okay. Well, it was one of the best Thai places I ever ate in my entire life, to be honest. So it was memorable. Boy, my journals or my diary is just everything I ate, pretty much.
Yeah.
Diary. I had a turkey Reuben today.
Well, Portland is an amazing food city. Amazing.
It is. So was Seattle, though. You know, the whole Pacific Northwest has it going on as far as cuisine. Like, it's some of my favorite, to be honest.
Yeah, we have good Thai food and good Asian food, I think, if that's your preference for
really
culinary
good Asian food. Yeah.
Baking and air frying work great. Yeah, baking and air frying are awesome for tofu. Oh, and there's another hack that I learned recently too with it, which is if you want to like get the liquid out but don't want to change the texture or wait forever while you press it, if you wrap it up in paper towels and put it in the microwave, but use the defrost setting.
Interesting.
Okay.
And don't do it for like 30 seconds, 45 seconds at a time, and then take it out and change and it works. It works it sucks all the liquid out through osmosis or something. I don't know.
It's the microwave magic.
Wow.
I think That's the problem, is like I have never had the patience for pressing tofu, and the few times that I've tried it, it turns out terribly wrong. Like, and I can't.
You
I'm
know,
the person. I made hollandaise in the microwave. That's the only way I know how to do it. Like, that's how impatient I am. Okay,
well,
I see your face.
do you know that? Do you have a tofu press, an actual tofu press?
No, I just had
They're
paper
so
towels
cheap.
on a plate.
Like they're so cheap, like under $10 for a good one that you'll probably have the rest of your life. And they make all the. I mean, really, like I avoided. I'm like, I don't need it. I use a plate and I have my own system, and it always kind of crumbles. It does ruin the integrity of the tofu sometimes. These presses, I mean, they're designed perfectly for tofu, and they get as much liquid out as you want. I can't recommend it. Maybe for like $8.
Mm-hmm.
That's not bad. I should invest.
Yeah. You deserve it.
I think they have it at Daiso. Do you have you been to a Daiso?
I literally was just thinking Daiso probably has it. Yes, I've been to a Daiso. I need to go again. They're stationary and they're tofu presses. That's what I need to do.
There you go.
I love
We
that
almost went to Daiso at the South Center Mall when we were there the other day.
Oh, yeah. Did they have a Daiso?
Yeah, they have one there. We have one in West Seattle here now too.
Oh,
Where?
man.
What?
You don't know that? We have at Westwood Village. We have we have a Daiso.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, someone
like
said mop out
outside.
tofu. Yeah.
So for people who aren't familiar, Daiso it's essentially it's like a Japanese dollar store basically.
Oh, what?
So yeah, so they have and they have this wonderful everything there is from Japan, and they have these wonderful kitchen supplies and all of nothing there is over $5. It's just amazing.
Yes.
Did you see that we went to the mall, Steve, recently?
Mm-mm.
We just went to there's an exhibit at the mall, at the South Center Mall, with an alien communicator. It's like a telephone booth, and the whole wall is all about the Maury Island incident, and it's all the history. And the telephone booth is trying to. I don't know how they're doing this. They said they're going to send the messages you leave into space, but it's to invite the aliens to come back down, because it's kind of near south side of Seattle, Des Moines, and related to all of that. So it's kind of
fantastic.
Yeah, and it's just next to the lens crafters, there's.
Can you play the video?
Is it like an art?
I don't have it here.
Is it like an installation?
Yeah, it's like an art installation, and one of the people that is listed on there is this person that we've met before, Scott Schaefer, who was the director for Sightings, that show.
Sure.
Yeah,
I love that.
No, he is involved in this somehow, but it's this big thing on the wall and a whole exhibit, at the mall, which is great. So we all went there as a pilgrimage.
That's a great group outing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally.
It was really fun. They even had this QR code you could scan to do a virtual or augmented reality of finding UFOs in the mall around you until an alien came down, and then it took you to a passport of all of the information about the UFO sighting and everything else that happened, which was really fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'll tell you what, I am such a massive fan of the Maury Island story and the whole Kenneth Arnold story. Not because I think it was actually a genuine sighting potential, but the whole story really, it gets super interesting after the UFO sighting with all the weird crazy stuff. I mean right. It's a wild ride. The Kenneth Arnold book is phenomenal, really good.
Yeah, I just listened to your interview recently about the Shaver Mysteries.
Oh yeah, with Dean Bertram. Yeah, he's good.
Yeah, it was really good. Yeah, thanks. I recommend people go listen to that. But have you been to Maury Island? Have you checked it out and everything?
No, it's I actually I was not working out. I don't do that. I was working in Seattle right before COVID, and I remember it was actually right before COVID, and they were hurrying up the shoot, and I ended up. Long story short, I ran out of time. But it was when I have a day off, I'm gonna rent a car and go and have myself a day. And but no, I haven't. It's on the bucket list for sure.
Yeah, I was just talking to we live right in here by the Maury Island. We should be doing more with that. It's right here. It's
do a ritual out there.
I know. Yeah,
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
I have this like really, I mean, like I'm super into the magic of place, right? But I also really believe like deeply, like whatever this means, and it's a woo-woo idea, but like I think even if something was hoaxed at a certain location, these places become enchanted in a potentially different way. Like I don't think like let's say UFOs, Bigfoot, all the fun stuff we love, none of it's genuine. It's actually just a mass hallucination that's been happening since beginning of time. Well, that's just as interesting to me. Like
That's
that's
so cool.
amazing. That you know,
100%.
like it doesn't matter what it is, but like, I do feel like hoaxes. I'm obsessed with hoaxes. I love them, and I feel like it's a way of enchanting a piece of land and creating folklore. Now, when they're like duping people and grifting money and they're harming people, I detest that. But like the Maury Island thing, like it has created so much lore. Now there's this wonderful art piece.
Right.
The whole case is likely a hoax by crazy fascist Fred Crispin. I mean, like, you know, the source of this whole thing is a wackadoo guy who is fascinating, but yeah, he was insane.
I remember because I was, you know, when there was like a Maury Island, like kind of like festival thing a couple years ago, and I went with Jim Perry.
Yeah, I love Jim.
Oh God, he's the best.
Love Jim.
We went and hung out there, and then I started like doing some like digging in newspapers.com, and actually I found this thing that I sent to Jim because he was, I don't know if he's still writing a book. He was writing a book about it, but there's this thing that I haven't. Maybe people have heard about this, but like about a month after the Maury Island incident, this woman she wrote to the newspaper about how she saw this like plume of smoke over Maury Island, and she was living on the Des Moines side, and that like it came over her vegetable garden, and like all of her vegetables like started like withering and dying. And this is like a week after like more weirdness happening over there on Maury Island.
Amazing.
And I also found this other thing that said that like Harold Dahl had some like tax liens put on him like 2 weeks before the Maury Island incident. So I'm like, is there something like, oh, we need to make some money real quick?
Yeah.
Sell a story to a paper or something. I don't know.
Right.
I know, it's just some weird old stuff. I love that aspect of it too. Like, it doesn't matter if it's real, but you just like learn all this weird history and like start digging into it. And
even if it was a genuine case and there were donut-shaped saucers there, what happened after and what's happened up to this date because of Maury Island is way weirder than UFOs in the sky. I think, like, especially what Kenneth Arnold was experiencing. I mean, like, you know, his room was being like tapped. There was like Men in Black type figures visiting him. Like the plane blew up with all the files. I mean, like it's an amazing movie. Like the movie starts right after the sighting to me. Like, you know,
right.
The sighting the encounter doesn't even matter at this point. Like it's just an awesome like story. It's great.
Wasn't that one of the first Men in Black encounters, or am I getting that wrong?
No, I mean that or Albert K. Bender. I don't know which one came first, and like one of the two are kind of technically in modern times, at least in the 20th century. Now there is arguably some Men in Black reports with the airship wave, but in terms of the saucer era from like the 40s and on, it's either Bender or Kenneth Arnold.
And the Maury Island folks are like adamant it was they were the first Men in Black, and in fact,
might have been.
It's on. Well, I think there's some other town on the East Coast or something that also claims it, and they're like, no. I mean, this is like they're evangelizing this big time, and it's on the wall at this exhibit as well. It's like we are the first.
Right.
So I think it is at least some people think it's the first one.
Right. Well, it's a fun phenomenon.
Yeah, totally. Sure. I think also that thing
shows up at your house.
What'd you say?
Until one shows up at your house.
Oh, yeah. No.
Tries to eat your Jello and can't.
Yeah. He uses a fork. Here's a spoon, you dummy. No, but those stories are so fun. They're so fun. I love I'm so obsessed with like the 60s and 70s, like UFO. All the various humanoids, and like there was such wonderful diversity in what people were experiencing, and then somehow like during the Reagan era it all becomes like homogenized into gray aliens. Like And I had this weird theory that like whatever it like mirrors culture and stuff like that. And I feel like, that was a turning point in America. I'm not going to get political, sorry, but like,
We just need our theater to get much weirder. Once we get theater weirder again, then everything else will follow.
I hear you.
Mm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
lean into the weird, folks. It will save us.
Yeah, definitely.
I put it in the little private chat here, but I have that video queued. If we want to see it, I can present it.
Oh yeah.
Should we show it?
Ooh,
But
I
I
love the video.
just wanted to like Shauna Mancy's question here. When did Gray Barker write they knew too much about flying saucers?
That that's a great point. That wasn't in the
1956.
that was in the mid 50s. So the Arnold's, if that was a Men in Black sighting, which I think that's the describe, would be before that. Yeah, because Bender was 50s.
Yeah, he just followed up with the Mara Island was, I think, like Bender shut down the IFSB in 1953, so Maury Island was before that, I think.
Yeah, and then there was another one I pulled up. There was a comment about from Desideratum about whether anybody's had Fey encounters on Maury Island.
Ooh,
There is
what a question.
I've been to a forest there that there's a whole thing that's like says the leprechauns don't want you to put glitter in the park or something, and like there's these like leprechaun kind of like houses and stuff, and they have but it's like from the leprechauns. And I met some lady who was working the trails, and I asked her about the leprechauns, and she was like, okay, she kind of like leaned in close, like I have not seen them, but it's like they are reported here. So I've been to a special place on Vashon Island. It's pretty awesome. Which is Maury. It's the same.
Same island, Vashon and Maury.
Yeah.
Do you know that the smallest park in the world that's here in Portland is for leprechauns? It's a leprechaun.
Really?
Wait, what?
In the park, but I didn't.
It's literally like not even big enough to plant a tree in, and it's
like
just
2 square feet or something ridiculous.
Oh, that's awesome!
Wow, that's so cool.
Oh, Garrett and Jim Perry and I were pixie led.
Yeah.
On the Puget Sound, actually.
What?
Here in West Seattle. Yeah.
Can you say more?
Please go on, sir.
There's a park here in West Seattle called Fauntleroy Park, and it's really cool because there's like a literal fairy village. It's there's this grove of cedars, of like red cedars, like, and the kind that we get out here in the Pacific Northwest, which are just like, so when you walk in, and cedars are antifungal and antimicrobial, and so nothing grows under them usually. And so there's this grove of cedars, and it's like walking into a cathedral or something. And all the roots are like, they have little holes in all the trees and stuff like that. And there are offerings to fairies that are left there. There are like the little houses are decorated. There are little like, it spells out, like there's one of them, one time there were the stones that spelled out "Thank you, fairies." It's just this really sort of magical place. The whole park is, but it's like a genuine like fairy village. And when Jim was in town once with Garrett, and the three of us went there just to check it out, and we brought we use one of our tools for investigations. We have, do you know hagstones? Or holy stones.
I've heard of them. I can't picture it though.
So it's like a stone, with a natural hole in it.
Okay, sure.
If you see through it, then you look through it, and traditionally you could look through it, and you would see like the other beyond the veil.
You can find them on beaches or around rivers because of the water erosion. They'll cause the hole through the stone.
Oh,
yeah. So they're called like holy stones or adder stones. But we thought like, well, there you go. Kai has
beautiful.
Kai has a bunch of them. And you can find them
like
just on the beach at actually on the Oregon coast. There's tons of them. But for our investigation, we thought, well, what if we attached one to some binoculars? And so we taped it to some binoculars, and now you can sort of view and you can sort of alter what you're seeing.
Wow.
And we saw this like without the binoculars, it was just like a tree stump. But when you were looking through it, the binoculars, it was like some sort of like old man. Or,
old man.
Yeah, and it was just like, what the heck? And it was like really quiet. And I was like, well, and I go to this park all the time. It's in my neighborhood. When my son was littler, we would go walking through there and, just to check out. It's just this beautiful Pacific Northwest park with a creek running through it and just gorgeous. And so we go and look at the fairy village, when he was 6, and we would leave offering. Like if we got a good parking spot, then we would bring like an offering to the fairies to live to thank them for for helping us
great
parking spot. So I've been to this park many times, and I said to Garrett and Jim when we were heading out, like here we go. And I led them down the trail that leads out. And we ended up walking much further, and we were like a half a mile from where we should have been let out when we got out. So we had to like trudge in the rain back to the car a half a mile. And I was like, we were pixie led. That was classic pixie led. And something weirder happened.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if it was weirder per se, but so are you familiar with Randonaut?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were like, Jim and Garrett have been playing Randonaut, and we were like, well, let's do a Randonaut now. So we did a Randonaut like while we were there in the fairy village, and the random coordinates that spit out were my house.
Oh,
whoa!
That's the mailbox across the street from.
And it's supposed to just pick a random place using like quantum, numbers, generators and stuff, and like anomalies, and it went right to Jeremy's house for some reason.
Yeah.
Well, you guys were affecting entropy, and look, I mean, like there are some. My friend Nathan Isaac, him and his research partner developed like a random number generator thing. Because Darian is a computer programmer, genius level, created a random number generator and these 3 lights, and we took them to a cave in Kentucky this summer that supposedly had a lot of weird stuff happen. And I'll be honest, we heard like weird voices. It was horrifying. Like truly, I was like, I've been up more than I could chew. I was like too scared, honestly. Like it was great, but not great. Anyway, but the lights would go off when we would hear things. And he had his laptop there, and entropy would stop being random. Like it would go like this, and then when something would happen, it would start going straight. Yeah, I mean, like we have it recorded. We like shot it on a camera for this project we're doing. But I was like, that is really interesting stuff, like, and it almost sounds like what happened with you. It's like, nope, we're gonna give you something. Like here's a nice synchronicity for you. Bam, over the.
Yeah, is this something like lead us way out of the way before we get back to the car to get to it?
I mean, that's magic. What you're doing, you were almost using the Randonaut device as like a divination tool in a way, like bending randomness. I love it.
I really think that there is something to that like drop in entropy that happens before something weird. I have a weird tell when that's happening for me, especially if I'm driving. All of a sudden, there'll just only be white cars all grouped together in a like statistically improbable collection. Right. There's a couple spots that it happens to me, and it's kind of out on my like Bigfooting route. But I think there's something to that, like that drop in randomness kind of indicating that something odd is coming together.
Well, if you think about that is all like, the Lemmic ritual chaos magic is. You are trying to decrease randomness and bend things to your will, kind of, like it's all very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Emily's cocktail.
Ooh, that sounds good. That's fancy.
That's very close to the recipe I proposed.
It's true.
I'm impressed.
Creme de violet. Or is it just creme de violet?
I think it's creme de violet.
I've always called it creme de violet. I'm sure that the French would hate that. But...
Well, I just hate that, so. That's well. So how is it, Emily?
Sounds really good.
We might have lost. I think they might be having some connection issues.
Oh.
Should we do a quick snack report since we're on the subject?
Oh.
Yes. I ate my cookie because we were too busy talking. But I yet again have had one of my giant oatmeal cookie sandwiches.
That sounds so good. That sounds so good.
We traditionally share snacks.
I did not think ahead. I'll tell you what, I have no snack.
You had a great dinner. That's okay.
Yeah, but now, I'm like, I can eat.
There we go.
So sharing Pop-Tarts with the cat. Oh, that's nice.
That is.
Are they Pop-Tarts filled with cat food?
Hey, Kai, I don't mean to keep on jumping back to prior things we discussed, but I have been extremely interested. Here's another motif. I'm obsessed with the roads and why people see so many UFOs land in the middle of roads in rural places, on interstates, or Bigfoot crossing the road, or the lady in white on the road, or people have pan sightings on the road. And sometimes I wonder, because, and this isn't really necessarily my unique idea, but driving after a while puts you in a hypnotic state.
Yep.
Right? Even the bumps in the road, dun, 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 it's almost like binaural beats. And sometimes I wonder, this is a wild, crazy idea with no evidence to back it up, but I wonder if roads and driving puts you in a slight hypnosis to be able to experience high strangeness.
It does.
I don't know.
It synchronizes your brain waves in the same way that sitting in a rocking chair or swinging in a hammock does. That's why you fall asleep so much more easily. Sorry to interject there.
No, please. I mean, I agree.
Yeah.
I don't. It's one of those things. I don't know it's true, but I just know it's true.
Yeah.
There's something to it. I could talk about roads for 1,000 hours and never get bored. Like corn.
And what I was going to say is to circle back even more. So I used to have an 1.5-hour bus ride each way to school. So I spent 3 hours a day on the bus in rural Illinois, and especially on the morning ride, because I got on the bus at 6:30 in the morning. I would just kind of stare out the window, and there was such a hypnotic effect to watching down the rows of corn.
Right.
And there's just something about all things moving outside, and that the way that landscape kind of melts away, especially when you're doing a road trip or a proper distance
Totally
on the road.
Absolutely. No, I think there's really something to it. I don't know if that's what causes this stuff. I think maybe it allows you to see it a little easier or something like that. But there is just something about roads I find in general, because even before people driving cars, going back to the ferry roads in I think it was China back in part of the Chinese folklore is they call them dragon roads. And it's almost like the same thing as ley lines, but it was these, or death marches where people would die and they would march for 100 miles to honor the person. There's something about roads and the mystical, and that there's a connection there that this isn't my unique idea. This is an old ancient idea, but I love it and I find it fascinating.
And the Camino de Santiago and all of those historic walking routes.
Yes.
I have always wanted to do an investigation that's centered on rest stops on the highways, because I feel like those are incredibly liminal, because people just come and go all the time. And so it's rest stops, highways, diners that you find at the side of the road. I think for some reason I have always felt really drawn to wind fields, with the because I feel especially in the Midwest, those are everywhere and they're just sort of giant and booming.
It's electric.
They're moving.
And then cornfields. So all the I feel like all of that is connected in a manner, and that there's definitely something there that I have always pull apart. But I don't know.
Well, roads themselves are liminal spaces. Unless there's an accident, you're not stopped.
Hell yeah.
For the most part. And I don't know, rest stops and things reminded me, either Kai or Steve have any of you been to Grand Island, Nebraska?
Oh, I
Like,
certainly have. I
the
spoke at the
biggest
Bigfoot
thing.
conference there last year.
It's big enough to have a conference of anything
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, it's crazy. Small.
Yeah, like the only thing I remember passing through there is like the giant 24-hour truck stop that has like the subway and all the showers and like the arcade and stuff in it as well. Like, it's some weird stuff happens.
Nothing. If you ever visit the I-80 truck stop outside of Des Moines, Iowa, which is the world's largest truck stop.
It's huge. It's huge.
Okay.
I once wrote a TV pilot based on that truck stop. It was like where I was like, I'm going to play the dentist at the truck stop. And when I pitched it, they were like, what are you talking about? I'm like, never mind.
You know,
I
what
want
would
to
cool
watch.
would be something like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I would watch like a Parks and Rec or some sort of like ensemble cast.
That's what it was.
Takes place. Yeah.
That's what it was. Yeah. I was too ahead of my time.
Did you see the Twilight Zone episode that was set in the diner where the bridge was out?
Yeah.
And AP Strange, they did a Twilight Zone episode, and they talked about this, and I was like, that would be perfect for like a truck stop situation, like a big one like that. I don't want to spoil it if anybody hasn't seen it, but I can't remember what the title is, but it's a fantastic episode. But it's like a bottle episode, and they're all inside a diner. The bus is broken. No, the bridge is out. The bridge is out over the river. And all the bus passengers are in the diner, and then the radio comes on that, mysterious light was sighted. And, they can't account for everyone who was on the bus. And, is somebody in the diner actually, from a UFO trying to, do evil things. And so, yeah, it's really, really good.
I ask that question every time I'm in a Waffle House.
There we go. John Tenney, ladies and gentlemen.
I was just gonna say he always pops up just when I'm wondering if he's there.
I'm wearing his shirt. I found his.
I got Tenney art on the wall. There he is. He just went up today. I don't know if that's a he. It feels like got a very masculine energy though. So
that's nice.
Okay, don't even get me started on public bathrooms. I messaged Emily about the McMinimans Kennedy School.
We need to go.
And we need to go. This is what my nostalgia talk was about.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know Garrett and Kai had been talking about nostalgia, but this bathroom in this McMinimans is haunted. It is haunted. I got my first EVP recording there. The EMF reading is like off the chart, and it makes no sense. And it just gives Moaning Myrtle vibes. It is creepy.
Haunted restrooms in Seattle.
We need to visit them if we have the codes.
I mean, half of them are on my tour. So, like, the first ghost that I encountered in downtown Seattle was in the bathroom at the Alibi Room.
Oh,
okay, yeah.
That's a haunted place. Alibi Room is well known for. Yeah.
And I think Frank was mad at me because I kept mixing his name up. So there's two ghosts at the Alibi Room in the alley in we call it Ghost Alley. It's Post Alley. But Frank Goodwin is one of the main ghosts, and he owned the market and basically managed the Pike Place market when it first opened. And his nephew took over managing it after Frank did, and I used to mix up Frank and Arthur a lot. Like, I would just interchange their names when I started doing the tour. And then there was one night where after my tour was over, I took a group down to the Alibi Room, and I had this group of guys that were on leave from the Army that like really wanted to go, and then I had like one other girl on the tour group that really wanted to go, and she was like, you can't leave me with these strange men. You gotta come with us to the Alibi Room. And so like normally I wouldn't go with a group of my guests like to another bar after the tour is over, but they were like, we'll pay for your drinks. And I was like, great, female solidarity and drinks.
There you go. Yeah.
So we're down in the basement of the alibi room. I sent one of the guys off to the bathroom jokingly, just because he mentioned that he needed to go. And I was like, be careful, it's haunted, thinking that I was joking. And so I send this guy off to the bathroom. He comes back literally 30 seconds later and was like, that was horrifying. Worst thing I've ever seen in my life. I'm leaving. And he literally like handed me a full drink and left. And I was like, what's happening right now? And while I was trying to figure out what was happening, his like other 3 buddies that he were with screamed bloody murder. And I was like, what is going on right now? Because I had my back to the corner, like, because we were in the basement. And so my back is to this corner and these guys are screaming and the other guy's like leaving the bar. And I'm like, what is happening right now, guys? And they were like, did you see that guy? And I was like, what guy? And they were like, did you see that guy? And I was like, what guy? And they were like, there was a guy behind you in a top hat. And I didn't know until then, but Frank apparently very often is seen wearing a top hat. So I didn't tell them that fact. And then they demanded, I had to walk them back to their car is the bottom line of this story. Freaked out. And then they were like, do you want to ride back to your car? No, I'm good. But like, I have not mixed up Frank and Arthur since. And I think he showed up behind me. I think I didn't see him because he wanted me to get his name right. And so he was mad and he knew that I would connect that memory then. And I don't know. I think I got like emotionally manipulated by a ghost is what I'm saying. I think.
That is amazing. What a story.
That was one of the weirder, other than that guy that told me that Linda Hazard hates me.
What?
That's not my fault. That's Linda's fault. Linda shouldn't have done murders if she wanted people to be nice about her.
Right. There's consequences.
Yeah. That was a whole lot of rambling on my part.
No, that was phenomenal. I love that. My God. Like that, talk about like, worth the price of your drinks to see, a phantom with the top hat. Look, I buy you dinner too,
It's the best ghost tour.
Yeah. And send you with some movie rental money.
Was it standing behind you? So did you actually see? So you didn't see, they saw it behind you, but you didn't actually did you feel anything when that was happening?
I mean, it had been a weird night. I don't know that I felt anything because I feel like I was already on high alert because that guy had just excused himself, had left. But that whole night had been weird. Like when we got to Kells for the end of the tour, my phone set off something. You know how when there's like an Amber Alert or something, your like phone will flash and it will set off an alarm? My phone lost its mind and the camera flash went off multiple times, and then the alarm went off, and then it just died. Like the phone just died. So I was already in a weird, strange. It had been like a strange night to begin with, and then we went to the alibi room after that. I don't discount anything that happens in Kells, but Kells is so weird that when something weird happens there, I'm like, well, that was just Kells. Like that was just like Kells gets really mad when you say Zach Bagans' name. So,
who doesn't?
Yeah, I mean,
so like if I have a guest on my tour who's like, oh, do you know Zach Bagans? I'm like, yes, I know Zach Bagans, but then I have to try and stop them before they spit his name out in the bar. If they spit his name out in the bar, then Kells, like the building loses.
It's like Beetlejuice, yeah.
That's funny. I love that. That's great.
Kells hates, the building hates him. That's we're gonna see. This is our Kells news. So Kells has 4 floors. It's in the Butterworth building, and people were like throwing people out the windows of the mortuary during the Spanish flu. It had a wall full of urns. It's a whole building. It's a whole situation.
It wasn't just urns, wasn't it? Child urns. I just feel like it's different.
45 urns that all belong to children in the walls. Awful. But they just turned the 3rd floor where they were tossing people out of the windows into this like hyper fancy cocktail bar. And so the story that we just got from one of the waiters this week is that when he was closing, he turned off all of the speakers and he was wiping down the counters, and he's like in the middle of closing out for the night. And am I still there?
You are. We can hear you.
We can hear you.
You're a little frozen, but you're here.
I think she's
frozen. Oh man!
Just when
it was the Zach Bagans.
The Zach Bagans curse.
I'd say it's less like Beetlejuice and more like Macbeth.
Gosh, Kells is on my list of places to visit still. I haven't been there, but it's definitely on the checklist just of having such an intense and long history of Seattle shenanigans.
We should all go to Emily's tour and then go to Portland. Are you still doing tours, Kai?
I mean, I'll do one for you for sure. Anytime.
Exclusive. Yes.
Yeah, because that was super fun. Yeah, and then we'll go to Bremerton, and Garrett will give us a tour of the Raccoon Park.
Yeah, totally.
Green Park. Yeah.
There's a raccoon.
Oh yeah, you don't know about that?
Oh yeah, no, this is a good one.
Oh well, when
This is dangerous territory.
When I first moved here into Bremerton, I was talking to my neighbor, and he was talking about there's these raccoons that live behind our house by the park, and I was like, "There's a park?" He's like, "Oh yeah, there's like an abandoned park there that the city like shut down 15 years ago. It's just gated up, and like the raccoons live in the alley by it." And I was talking to another neighbor, and she said, "Oh, I saw the raccoons go down the slide." So there's like this park that like only raccoons are using. And then I made this TikTok. This actually kind of is back to what we were talking about, that like haunting a piece of land, like this like kind of creating a Philip experiment, but like of a place, like
yeah.
So I was like, there's this piece of land here that's just sitting here. It's like this liminal place. Only raccoons hang out here, and you're not really allowed to go in there. And this is during the pandemic. So I made this TikTok where I put an object in a box, and I went into the park and I hid it in the like play structure, and I got all these people on TikTok. Like they got like 100,000 people. Like it was crazy. And then I said, in your dreams, like try to go here in your dreams tonight, and actually like find this box and open it in your dream and tell me what I put in the box. And all of these people tried it. It was crazy. And then
wonderful.
I was trying to get like the city council like to turn it into an official dream park. Like this is only what the park is for people to dream to go there. Whoa. And I got like a city council person who was like into this idea. but it was kind of crazy because like people were having all these dreams. They're having dreams of me in their dream. And then I was having dreams that like all these people were knocking on my door. It was like almost like trick or treating, and I was like, oh hey, and then I had to close the door, and I got another knock, and I was like, oh no. When I woke up the next day, I was like, am I getting like all these people from around the world like entering my dream space? Like did I just accidentally like,
your astral plane is flooded with but I mean, what fun! I know. What a great experiment.
I think it would be so cool to turn that into like a place. Like that's the whole focus of that place.
I do too.
Were people also like blaming you for like trying to steal their soul and stuff?
Yeah, because this is TikTok, so there's like all these like young people who are like, they're trying to take your soul. Like this is like how could you not know? Like they're gonna like it's like Wyndham Earl kind of stuff. Or something,
Yeah. Well, I mean, you should have, considered just saying, "You're right, I am." It's too late now because I got it.
Just like a jar of swirling liquid.
Yes. Just feed their paranoia. I mean, it's tempting,
Yeah. Yeah, it was wild.
Did you guys? Oh, go ahead.
I've been wanting to I've always wanted us to try to buy some or like get like a nonprofit. We've talked about this, like get a nonprofit and like purchase a tiny piece of land where the whole purpose is to do this kind of experiment, like kind of intentionally haunt it. Yeah. And like people go there to like, develop a spirit and have people or whatever entities and all this. Because people have talked about that happening at certain places where over time the folklore becomes, starts to like there maybe wasn't something there, but over time it manifests and egregores. It's like what if we did that on purpose? Like we actually.
There's an interesting. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, sorry.
I was
You
just
can
gonna
go.
say on top of that, like, well, I mean, like, people have tried to enchant places. I mean, for instance, like I believe in Jacques Vallée's Forbidden Science 5, he talks about how he had this observatory in his Mendocino cabin, and he built this observatory. He put all his occult and hermetic books in this observatory, not UFO books, mind you, which I thought was interesting. But he was trying to see if he could create a place of high strangeness. And who knows what else he was doing? Like in my brain, I like to think he had of Jacques Vallée, like in the 80s with the, his big hair, like have a baguette in one hand as his wand. He's got this purple like wizard robe on. Probably wasn't doing that, but you don't know, but he definitely was. I mean, he talks about it. It's like, yeah, I think he was using computers and like, who knows what he was doing. Like, there is that weird idea. Like, what if you took like a magical ritual, like a very powerful one, like let's say the Babylon working. And I don't know much about the Lama, I'll be honest. But what if you took it and then had an AI run it like a million times? Like, would that make it more potent, or does it need that human connection? Like,
right?
Yeah, I wasn't the one of the first whistleblower for like the AI ChatGPT doing that, like running sort of like certain occult things through ChatGPT.
I didn't know that. No, I mean,
OpenAI.
someone's going to if they haven't done it yet. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I was gonna say too. My friend Tim and I, Timothy Renner, who's actually friends with
I love
Lucinda.
Yeah, I know Lucinda. She's great. Yeah, great people.
Yeah, we are starting to work on our own experiment of creating like a Conjuring Up Philip style Bigfoot in the middle of a town that doesn't have Bigfoot reports so far.
Bravo.
And so like I think the idea is very possible, depending, like it doesn't even matter if there is phenomena, as long as there's like the collective group thought going on about creating your own mythology and folklore.
Yes.
I think it's a really, really interesting idea, and it really just takes like a lot of belief with a little bit of healthy skepticism. But honestly, the power of thought's so strong.
I also think a sense of humor is important. In the late 70s, or maybe it might have been the 80s. Colin Andrews, who's a British investigator, he was kind of the big crop circle dude in the 90s, right? And he's done some interesting work with Greg Little, I think. But anyway, long story short, he was part of this group that would do psychic questing in the UK.
Yeah.
And they had some quite remarkable results, if you believe the stories. But like, they would say like, all right, in this tree, in the Isle of Wight, we're going to go there. We're going to find some like ancient tome of like, they were always like kind of like trying to build the Arthurian legend into it as well. But they went there, and then they ended up finding some like old Viking relics that were like crazy rare. But like this, it would happen over and over again, where they were psychic questing these objects and different things in the landscape, and it wasn't exactly what they were doing it, but it was close. They were always like finding something really interesting, So maybe there's something to it. It's an interesting experiment. Like I haven't heard of anyone doing that in modern times, so I love it. I can't wait to hear the results.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. I feel like anybody should be able to try and do that at any point in time. And that's one of the reasons why I, like, after meeting Garrett and Jeremy and the rest of the crew, is like the incorporation of play and just creativity is so important for these things to actually come to fruition.
Yeah, and it just makes it more fun. Like, I think like getting into the theater of it all, like for me, is like part of the fun. Like when I go out and like look for weird stuff in Nebraska, basically what I'm doing when I say I'm doing that, I'm going to a wildlife management area where there was a very weak case of a Bigfoot being seen. But for me, I can enchant that land. It's a really pleasant afternoon. Maybe something will happen. But, yeah.
Have you been to Boyer Chute, just north of Omaha?
No, but I know where Boyer Chute is.
I got pixie led there one time. I had such a weird experience. That place is bizarre and liminal. It's literally like the river carves out this little island, and in the wintertime, they let all the water out, and so it's like muddy, and you can actually like walk across what the rest of the time is an inlet. But it got flooded really bad in the was that 2008, 2009 floods in Nebraska.
Yeah.
The whole park got just like covered in, it got flooded out. And so wildlife had kind of started to reclaim the park when I was spending a lot of time there. I'd be curious to know what it looks like now.
Is that along the Missouri River, kind of by Blair?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I just when I say investigated, I'm saying this loosely, but there was a great Bigfoot little thing that was happening about, I think, in September, it was actually the prior September, so over a year now.
Okay.
But in one night, there was 3 Bigfoot sightings. One was near a residential street, one was by a train track, one was behind a Dollar General.
Whoa!
And by a dumpster. And I went to the Dollar General and talked to the lady who saw it.
Oh my gosh.
And I ended up accidentally causing a little bit of a scene because the manager came out and was like, no, you gotta go. Then she was like, the manager was like, don't go, you need to leave. She wasn't like yelling at me, but she's like, all right, you got what you needed. She's got to go back to work. I'm like, totally get it. And I was very polite. However, I went out and snapped some pictures and was like making little videos of the dumpster where apparently the Bigfoot was seen by. Yeah, you have to. I'm all the way out there. And the manager came out and caught me and she's like, all right, you gotta go. So I basically got kicked out of the Dollar General. It's not a highlight.
It sounds like she believed.
She did. The woman I talked to, I was with my friend John, and it was really fruitful in a lot of ways because I did talk to this lady, and she seemed like really like scared, like she wasn't like psyched this happened, like she was like, yeah, I was the one who reported it by the Dollar General. Apparently, supposedly she said the police investigated. The police did come to the Dollar General because they called the cops. It was her and 2 other ladies working there. So the police did come like at 10 o'clock and cleared the area. I don't know if the stories of the police investigating the other 2 cases, like the other 2 cases I'm really shady on. I have no witnesses, but it's interesting. And it's right by Boyer Chute where you were talking, you got Pixie Led. So it is a place where things have been seen. And just north of that, a lot of things have been seen. So right along the Missouri River, all down the eastern side of Nebraska, it is really where most of the stuff I think happens.
I just want to know what the police will do with the Bigfoot.
That's what I was going to ask.
Nothing good, man.
I don't think shooting Bigfoot has good repercussions.
No.
I mean, there have been reports of people who have shot Bigfoots or big feet, and are very confident that, were it a flesh and blood creature, they would have injured it. And
yes.
So they seem to be, impervious to bullets.
Right.
I'm less of a flesh and blooder.
Right. Well, there's that wonderful case in Uniontown, Pennsylvania in 1974 where, they see the red flying disc of light land in that farm field, and then the 2 Bigfoot come up the fence line. When they first shot tracer rifle bullets at it, but then they put actual bullets and shot it, and they said when it hit their bodies, it sounded like a puddle of water.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
This reminds me, are any of y'all familiar with the Dogman that was seen, I think it was by a sheriff in Land Between the Lakes, is it Michigan?
No, it's Kentucky.
Yeah.
It's Kentucky. Western Kentucky. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
I was not a Dogman believer until I heard his testimony, and I'm like, okay, Dogman exists. But he also saw Bigfoot associated with these Dogmen, and there were portals involved, which also I was like, this makes sense. This makes sense to me. It sounds very out there, but I don't know. You just have to listen to this man tell the story.
I mean, the stories are awesome. Who knows if they're true? I mean, the big story behind the genesis of the lore of the Land Between the Lakes, I believe, is that a family in the early 80s was mauled and murdered by a Dogman, and they shut down part of the park. And it's weird because Dogman is definitely the cryptid du jour right now. I feel like it's really having its time. It's 15 minutes. But there's something Dogman is catching the attention of a lot of people, I feel.
There was just a Dogman encounter on the Dogman, I think it's Dogman Encounters podcast that happened here in Bremerton in my little small town.
What?
And it was right next to the Safeway. So I was like, I gotta go, and I took my son. He was like 9, and we went over there, and we were looking for it in the alley. I was like, we gotta find the dog man, and then we found this empty can of Alpo in the middle of the alley. And I was like, here it is. This is the evidence. It was great. But yeah, I think there's even a dog man here in my small town. So I think it is like a thing that's happening right now.
Yeah, Dogman the Bounty Hunter.
There's Bigfoot at Dollar General and Dogman at Safeway. Like, it's just...
They have their shop, too.
Yeah.
I feel like the way that you're describing that particular instance make it sound like they are like a cast of sliders from another dimension, just like popping in to cause some mischief and then disappearing.
It's as good as the answer as any. Honestly, it really is. That's on the table. Because you just created it, I feel like it's on the table now.
Yeah, interdimensional. They're interdimensional. My neighbor, when I was like 12, told me that Bigfoot was an interdimensional being, and at the time, I was like, "Thanks, buddy. Dad says I have to go home now." But now, the more that I'm like, "He's right. Oh my God, I gotta go back."
Who
tell him he's right?
It's always hard for me to grasp what like interdimensional means, because I have like such a. I mean, I always think of like an 80s computer, like line graphics.
Yeah.
And that's what it's like. So, I mean, like even like it's almost, it's weird. Like, what does interdimensional even mean? I guess it just means from another realm of reality or another like. I mean, I guess it's like Teal's super spectrum idea, where it's like. I guess, I don't know. It's curious to me.
There's an interesting. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, does anyone have a good grasp on quantum physics? I don't.
I used to study it for hobby when I was younger, and of course, there's like this correlation of like new age and quantum. It's not portrayed correctly, but the actual physics aspect of it, and theoretically, I could nerd out about forever. There is a video on YouTube called Understanding the 10th Dimension that I do recommend. It's about 11 minutes long, but it has cute little stick figure animations, and it makes grasping the concept of the different dimensions and levels pretty easy if you watch it a time or two. But it's wonderful if you want to learn more about dimensions and Bigfoot being multi-dimensional. I'll have to look it up here and put it in the chat. But
Please.
Bigfoot in general is fascinating. I did not entertain it when I moved to the Pacific Northwest, and my views have very much changed. But you are going to be talking with Lucinda soon about her trip with Tim out to the Blackfoot Reservation in South Dakota and interviewing all of the people there about their Bigfoot experiences, which are like integrated into their culture, that they like have no hesitancy about their belief and experiences. And I believe he is also like elemental or interdimensional.
Yeah.
With their encounters too.
Right. It's like the nomenclature changes. It's like, I feel like, in modern times, like, they're interdimensional, but I feel like saying they're spiritual, it's kind of all the same thing, right? It's like, we're just putting different labels on it. But like Lucinda's experiences, I know a lot about her, the one she had the first time. And then I do know about the one she had with Tim and then went back. And I'm so excited to talk to her because obviously first it's such like a beautiful, precious thing to be let on the reservation. And so I'm so excited to hear about these stories or let them tell people about these stories because they're phenomenal.
Yeah, I think it was a really just wonderful and special time for them. I'm really glad that you are going to be able to talk with her and hear about what she experienced there.
Yes. Lucinda's a wonderful human and Tim's great. Yeah, so love them both.
Bigfoot OG
is totally a Totoro. Like it's the same entity kind of in some ways. Yeah. Like I think it's like I think one of like the cornerstones of liminal ecology as we're coming to sort of understand that as a concept might be like the diversity of manifestation, in as much as like Bigfoot is interdimensional, but Bigfoot is also an elemental, and Bigfoot that is like an 8-foot tall ape guy who lives in Georgia and whose poop is in a museum that Garrett. I think that like it's and we have this habit, I think, of humans, and the best comparison I can think of is like every single science fiction movie where they go to a planet and that planet has one culture, like one society.
Right.
You know,
right.
like, oh yeah, that like Hoth is the ice planet, and then there's like 5 desert planets, and then there's, you know, like, but that's not actually how ecology works. That's not at all how ecology works. Ecology, you know, is diverse. It's diversification. It's, you know, there could be a Bigfoot looking creature on a UFO, and they're just like there could be one, you know, in the woods that's an ape. You know, why not both?
Yeah. No, I mean, it could be all the above. And like, I don't discount that maybe there is like a relic hominid that we haven't discovered. Like, what do I know nothing. Like there, maybe some UFOs are ETH. Like I don't know. But it could, like you said, it could be all the above. It could be so many different things. It could be other things mimicking things. I mean, who knows? It's all on the table, I think, right now.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah. Were you going to say something, Garrett? I didn't. Did I cut you off?
I don't remember now.
Yeah. I also wanted to hear the end of Emily's story.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh my God. I was going to say, did anybody finish it for me? Anyway, so this guy, Omar is his name. He's the bartender at Karoo, which is the cocktail bar, had turned off all the speakers. He was wiping everything down. It's probably, they close at like 1 a.m. So I would guess that it was probably like between 1:30 and 2 a.m. And he said that all of a sudden, as he's wiping this counter down, he starts to hear screaming. And it's a woman screaming. And he finally finds the source, and it was coming from one of the speakers that he had just turned off. And he basically just had to wait it out. It stopped on its own. But I actually cannot ask them about ghosts directly because they're too freaked out. You have to ask if they've seen anything weird, and they respond to that. They somehow, for some reason, they feel better. But they're putting, now on the 4th floor of that building, they're putting a yoga studio. We might have to go to yoga at the Butterworth building. So the Butterworth building, by the way, has the very first elevator that was ever installed in the West Coast in it, because there were so many bodies that came through that building that it was the first building to ever require an elevator on this side of the country. And I saw somebody ask the question earlier. They were live bodies during the Spanish flu. The government started paying out $50 per body that got brought into the mortuary. And in order to capitalize on that, Mr. Butterworth made basically a rule that you could bring anybody into the mortuary as long as that body was dead by morning. Didn't necessarily matter if it was dead when it got there. So
bring out your dead from Monty Python.
A lot of people out
through
of
my
the
head.
4 windows. Yeah,
that's crazy.
That's wild. The yoga studio.
Yeah.
So now we're gonna have to, when they open it, we're gonna have to go to yoga at the Butterworth building.
I'm going to Butterworth Mortuary Yoga with you. Yes.
Yeah. You should. Erica, my roommate, pointed out earlier that the cat that we just acquired is named Frank, and we were going to change his name, but it stuck. And maybe that is still Frank Goodwin's fault. Maybe he's just following me forever now.
Yeah. You need to get a top hat for your cat.
Yeah. There you go.
I want to know what he saw in the bathroom, because if they saw him behind you in the top hat in just the general basement area, why was the bathroom more terrifying than that? That's the story I want to know.
I wish that guy had told me before he bounced, but he was like so freaked out. And normally I can catch people and like make them talk to me, because they've just been on a 2-hour tour with me where I'm talking about ghosts. Right. So they already know that I'm going to believe them.
Yeah.
So usually I can catch people when they see something weird, but that time that guy was gone.
It's a vulnerable space to be haunted.
I wonder if they saw some sort of manifestation of the Hat Man. Because the Hat Man kind of has like weird, creepy vibes, right? Like,
yeah.
So I don't know if it was exactly like Garrett can speak to the Hat Man.
No, I can't. I might. La 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 la.
The Hat Man. It freaks him out.
Yeah.
Not as badly as the old Spaghetti Factory.
By the way, this is only tangentially related, but I'm gonna start making everyone who follows this do improv with us again next week.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Back up in on it. So I think we're going to do a Bigfoot related improv next week, unless we want to do a nostalgia related improv next week with
do you guys do improvisation?
Well, you should explain what.
Yeah.
It's new.
I'm very
It's
curious.
something new. So my personal goal this year is to sort of explore the connection between theater and hauntings.
I love
And
it.
because I think that, I mean, every theater that you've ever walked into is haunted. All of them.
It's true. And comedy club.
Yeah. Oh,
I've been in so many. I've been doing this for a long time, and they're all haunted. Everyone's
all
got
of
a
it,
story.
yeah. So I think there's an intersection between, obviously, and we've been talking about this over the course of the night, between creativity and like the act of creation and being in an audience that manifests like weirdness, like high strangeness.
Mm-hmm.
And so in order for us to sort of manifest during WUFO, I have been interested to see if group improv can help us collectively like manifest a weird experience.
I love it.
I'm starting everybody out easy. I also promised them that I wouldn't, Garrett, I think in particular, I promised that I would not make anybody do like Saturday Night Live, like weird, like improv, like live on a live stream.
Yeah.
I can't even like handle icebreakers at work or whatever, you know, like that's it's too much for me.
So I'm trying to keep it as gentle as possible, but I'm hoping that throughout the weeks we're able to like ramp the improv up and see if we can get that energy online.
That's fantastic. I love it.
Like you can in a space.
Yeah. Well, you know, improvisation, long form. I did improv for like over a decade, many shows. And I studied an improv that was based out of Chicago, which is kind of like the Second City Chicago style long form improv. And it was created by a man named Del Close, who was a practicing Wiccan, was in the OTO for a little while, like heavily involved in ritual magic, like for real, like. So, but he when you do long form improv, you start it with something called the invocation, which you're literally invocating from the gods, like, to, embody you within a light veil of a character to perform this show based off a word or whatever. I will say, and of course, I was the only one into the occult and stuff when I was at Los Angeles doing this. They're like, okay, weirdo. I was trying to tell people, like, man, we're performing a magic ritual. And they're like, just shut up, Steve, please. but I will say, when the shows, like, improv is one of these things where, like, if the group is great, 25% of the time it'll be amazing. The rest of the time it'll be like okay or not good. That's just the odds. It's like a Grateful Dead show. The 1 out of 4 will change your life. But when you're doing improv and it's flowing, you're not even thinking. There's no thoughts in your head. You are just being possessed by something. And you can ask people who aren't even into this stuff, and they'll tell you the same thing. They'll just have a different way of explaining it. But they're all saying the same thing. Like, well, yeah, I'm not really writing in my head. It's just the words are coming out of my mouth. And I'm like, yeah, you're channeling something. Yeah,
it's you getting out of your own way.
I've experienced it many times, and it's a beautiful thing when you're flowing and you're not thinking. It's really unbelievable. I mean, I'm sure many musicians talk about it as well, and I think in all the arts, painters talk about it. They go into a trance, like when Lynch talks about filmmaking or painting or building furniture. He's like, I become part of the wood. I'm in the wood. Like, and there's something to it. It makes sense. People have different ways of describing it, but we're all saying the same thing.
Yeah, definitely. It's its own state.
Certainly.
Man,
that's
right.
Yeah,
go ahead, Emily.
That's why I did the cocktail. That's why I did the cocktail for Dionysus, because I need to, especially this week, because I don't know my monologues yet, and that audition's on Sunday.
Oh,
you got this.
Break a leg.
Thank you.
You didn't get to tell us how was the cocktail.
It was really good.
It's gone. It was that good.
Oh yeah, I drank that almost immediately. So I did tell Kai, I pulled out my creme de menthe because you had suggested it. So I gave Erica half.
Not creme de menthe. Every time you say creme de menthe,
it was violet
berry. I'm like, what?
No, it was berry. It was creme de violet. There we go. I want to say creme de menthe instead though, but it was all it meshed really well. 10/10 would recommend.
Good.
I'm glad it worked out. And I'm really surprised that you had that on hand.
Yeah, I'm impressed actually, kind of.
I have a lot of weird, there's a theater in town called Cafe Nordo that did a show where they sent us cocktails, and they had sent me that. And they're like, it was during the pandemic, they did a show that you could interact with online and at home. Because we couldn't go into theaters, so we were doing stuff at home. So they had sent me that. So that was a theatrical liqueur that went into it.
Beautiful.
We have a bunch. I did a show called Those Squirrel Plays a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, and because the woman that lives in one of the women that was in the show with me had a bunch of squirrels in her yard that were like throwing like hazelnut, like nuts off walnuts at her house. So she collected all these walnuts that the squirrels were throwing at her while we were doing the squirrel plays, and made like a walnut liqueur. So now I have walnut liqueur that I can't figure out. Maybe that's
that's got squirrel energy in it, right?
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
I have a walnut. My walnut that a squirrel gave me.
Oh,
right
yeah.
Here. Yeah.
Oh,
I was gonna.
Did he hit you?
Though it was after I had that weird cacao ceremony where I saw a squirrel, and then I came home and I found this walnut in my shoe on the front porch, and I think a squirrel left it for me.
A little present.
And then wasn't there a whole squirrel thing with someplace you went?
Well, when I went on that trip too, I saw a squirrel sitting in a tree, and there was a cat in the house in Portland.
No, but this was like in North Carolina, maybe.
Oh, I did go to that was what's that called?
At some squirrel town or.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the town. There's these like white squirrels there that like escape from a circus or something, and then now they run around the town.
What?
And like, yeah, it's it. And I just got there as we're visiting with my wife's dad, and we went to this town. I was reading Dracula, and we were going to this other town, and we entered Transylvania County, and I was like, what's going on? And they're like, I started hearing about these white squirrels that have like escaped from the circus, and I was freaking out there. It's a weird place. Yeah.
Wow.
Brevard.
Yeah, Brevard. That's what it's called. The town. Yeah. Yeah. I have some white squirrel earrings I got there.
Eric and I have a big thing about squirrels. Eric and I have a big thing about squirrels. We met because we were passing each other. We didn't really meet. We were in English class. That's how we met. But we're BFFs forever because we passed each other squirrel drawings in English class, just back and forth, hoping that our teacher would pick it up and be like, "What are you doing?"
That's innocent.
It's the source of our friendship.
Ooh,
great source.
This is a good fact.
I see you have your checking stick, Garrett. Did you?
Yeah, I was going to show off my checking. This is what I did for my birthday.
That's beautiful.
I don't know. Have you heard of this before?
I know the Lynch video of
yeah. So I had to make one after I saw that video.
Yeah, that was on my list. I'm like, I need one.
I know. I just like. I love that video is like one of my favorite things I love his work, but that video is just oh man, he's just such a sweet soul, and that I don't know.
I'm like, I feel like a part of me has been chopped off and will never come back. I mean, it's weird to like be so like distraught over someone who was like a family member or a friend, but like he was like so deeply important to me as an artist, like the most important artist of my life by a million.
I was thinking about this just the other day. I was like, I feel like super lucky that I got to live.
Oh yeah.
And experience him his work.
Me
like
too.
I feel like so grateful. Like other people have had human experience and did not get to know what his weird. I get to experience his stuff.
Absolutely.
I was feeling very grateful for that because it is like very special to me.
Mm-hmm. Same.
Yeah.
The only other celebrity I can recall feeling something similar to that was Anthony Bourdain.
Yeah, I loved him.
That was that really hit me. Like I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Jim Henson got me, and then Anthony Bourdain was the next one. Got me real good.
Yeah.
Did I talk about when I met Anthony Bourdain?
No.
Very briefly. Oh my God. I used to work at the Woodland Park Zoo. And there was one night because they made us work 5 concerts a summer because they do a concert series, and Weird Al was coming to play.
Hell yes, I love Weird Al.
The concert, and they made me work the VIP parking lot, and I'm like standing there with my little clipboard and my little zoo uniform, and this car pulls up and the window rolls down, and it's Anthony Bourdain, and I could tell that he could, because he just like waved at me, and I was like, hey.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know what to do because his name was very clearly not on the list, but his friend that was driving him in was, thank God, because I didn't know what I was going to do for a split second. I was like, how am I supposed to tell Anthony Bourdain he can't Park in the.
You have to let them.
Yeah. So we just chit chatted very briefly. It was like very brief hellos, and then he went to go park, and then I directed him into the zoo. So it was a very brief encounter. And then, of course, on the radios, because I had a brief moment of, was that actually Anthony Bourdain, or did I hallucinate that entire situation? And then 4 calls came out. They were like, "Bro, is that Anthony Bourdain? Oh my god!" So yeah, it was.
That's so.
He was
cool.
very nice.
Yeah.
Very
awesome.
brief. Yeah, at a Weird Al concert.
Yeah.
He's got taste, or had taste, you know. Weird Al rules.
Well, Garrett, I will say, your checking stick is like way more compact than mine. Mine ended up being like huge. Like
that's great.
Enormous.
That's amazing.
As I went with Nicholas, I took my son so that we could look for the parts for it. And these are the ones that we picked. And we found because we didn't know, we were like, where are we going to find a sphere? Like, we're just at this, we went to, it's a local hardware chain instead of one of the big box places. And so I asked him, I was like, look, we need to find a perfect sphere of some kind. And he's like, does it matter what it's made of? And I said, well, we don't want plastic. It's got to be, some sort of natural substance. And so he was like, I know what it is. And he was like, who he reminded me a little bit of was Senor Drool Cup, the waiter in Twin Peaks when Kate gets fat. He's like,
yeah. Coffee.
And he let us, he's like, yeah. And he led us over to, it's a cabinet doorknob. So it was with that hardware. And so it has this little screw hole in it that can fit in there perfectly.
It's beautiful. I love it.
It has Google eyes too.
Yes,
Google
of course. It's got to have
Googly eyes.
Googly eyes.
Yeah, but I've been wondering about using it for like
so
investigating too. But there's that thing in the video where he's like, he's using it for like his art. It seems like pointing at a part of his painting or something, and he doesn't go into a lot of detail about how he uses it, but it sounds like he's kind of like putting it on his heart and like feeling it in his heart, and then also putting it into his head. Yeah. And like, how is he thinking about it? Yeah. And I think that's interesting. Like, if you're investigating too, like, what am I feeling? And you're like separating these like things out and like, like also like rationalizing some things, and like kind of like checking in with your different, I don't know, like your different awareness. I do. I mean, like, I don't know because I don't do a lot of like, stuff like this. But like, I do think like, Brian Eno, who is the famous producer for Bowie, and in, what's that band? Oh, my brain's blank. Anyways, Brian Eno, we know who Brian Eno is. He created these cards called the Oblique series, where they were just like words coming out, right? And it was just something to get an artist out of their thoughts. It would be like, underneath the chair is yellow, and you would be like, okay, I'm going to take that into the art studio today, and just like whatever, it's just like these, it's like tarot, really. right. Yeah. It's just these random tools of divination, and I think that stick. Why couldn't that not be used for like whatever you're thinking or is going on when you're doing the act of it? That's like a random like thought. Maybe you should like explore. I don't know. I think there's something to it. If you want it to be a tool of divination, I don't see why it couldn't be. Anything could be. Like this pen could be if I want it to be, I think.
The checking stick kind of has like reverse divining rods vibes to me. Like, instead of trying to like get external input, you're trying to like get like quiet the external to get to tuned into your internal input.
Yeah. Like, the thing you're checking is you're not like checking whatever you're focusing on. Like, you're checking inside.
Which goes along with David Lynch being, a prominent Eastern occultist. I mean, that's why Twin Peaks was so fun, because with Mark Frost bring his, knowledge of Western occultism, and David Lynch with his Eastern. And David Lynch always talks about the Upanishads. And when you read about a lot of like the Vedic mysticism, everything's internal. The external world's not like really like taking, sure it's important, but like the mysticism, the answers are all in internal. So like what you were saying with the dividing rod seems very Lynchian. I wonder if he thought the same thing. That'd be my guess. Because he's a big TM guy who always talks about diving within to catch the ideas, so he was never looking to the stars. He was going inward,
Yeah. Like, like Major Briggs was, involved in Project Blue Book.
Absolutely.
And typically the messages they were receiving were from space, but the one time they got anomalous messages where it said Cooper's name and said, Fire Walk With Me.
Yeah.
They were actually pointing that into the woods in Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
Inside of Twin Peaks.
Yep.
So
boom.
Yeah.
Boom.
That's it. No, man. That's like
Totally.
that's a big. If you can wrap your head around that philosophy, you can really unlock a lot of Lynch's work.
Yeah.
For yourself, there's no answer to it because he I don't even know if it's a choose your own adventure or choose your own ending with Lynch movies, which I think the co-creation is so fun. That's why I love surrealism, because like you get to kind of like try to decipher the mystery for yourself, which I'm all about. I like the participation, but I just can't remember where I was going with that. I'm sorry. I think I just liked it. Thumbs up.
Makes me think of like especially the sorry, go on Twin Peaks thing, but the new one, The Return. So much of that felt like forced meditation in a way. Like there's that scene of the sweeping peanuts.
Yes.
And like, it's a really long scene, but it's not like I'm not complaining about it at all.
Yeah.
But it was almost like it got you into this place of like anticipation a little bit, but also kind of just like sitting there and thinking and like, just being really contemplative and like, I don't know. I was putting you in like a weird meditative state, I think.
It was. Yeah.
And I think there was a lot of that. And then all of a sudden, jarring something crazy or whatever. But I thought that was really cool that, it was like he was making all these people kind of meditate while you watch it.
That's a great observation.
Yeah.
I think scenes like that also force you to kind of confront yourself as your own like processing emotions come up, which is super helpful and really wonderful when it can be applied in theater or film.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of choose your own adventure, did anybody else check out the Log Lady tabletop game? Because it's really fun.
Yeah,
I didn't have a chance.
On Blue Sky. Steve, I'll give you the link.
Please, will you please send me the link?
Yeah.
I will be playing that this weekend. Do you have to download it? Like, how can I buy it? I have to buy it like now.
Yeah, it's on itch.io. It's
there's all these like, they're like solo role-playing games kind of. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them, and this is they're really awesome. So
oh boy,
it's not the most straightforward to understand. Like I read through the instructions and I was like, you want me to do what? But I figured it out and it's pretty fun. But speaking of Lynchian divination, so there's like 2 collections of like Lynchian phrases and like concepts in here, and you could totally take away the like writing like game part of it and just generate like Lynchian phrases that you could totally use as like
an
the same way you would use oracle cards or anything else.
Yes, that's wonderful.
To play with that.
Yeah, can you play with people or is it just solo?
I imagine you could play collaboratively with other people.
Maybe we'll have to do a show or do an online session.
Oh, that should be fun.
It would be fun.
Yeah.
Ooh, I would love that.
Yeah, we've played some of these solos, TTP, the role-playing games here on WUFO before. Like we did one where there's one of the games where you like are going to a planet and like encountering a species there and like what they take, what they value. And basically you're like pulling cards from just a regular playing deck to get the answers. And then you kind of make it up. But they're kind of like almost like writing prompts or like journals or something. Like you roll some dice, you pull things, but there's like a structure to them and you can kind of make them into more, multiplayer. But there's a whole like scene of people doing this. It seems really cool.
Oh wow, I love it. This sounds great.
Yeah.
How creative.
Yeah, I've been wondering about doing more, like I don't know, like making one that's like kind of more in this paranormal realm of stuff, because it seems like, it's using a little bit of divination and, I don't know.
I think it would work.
Yeah.
There's one in the pack that I posted about that uses runes to as like there are also some that are written to use tarot decks as the like instead of rolling dice or other things. So it's pretty interesting. I think that folks are already kind of blending the worlds a little bit, and I think there's an opportunity to come at it with a slightly less narrative bent, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Can I ask you guys a question?
Yeah.
This just popped in my head, and I feel like I've been waiting to ask this question for like 6 months, but I think it was early spring. I was driving through, and I was staying the night in a town of Missouri, and I can't remember, but right by my hotel, there was like a new age store, and a coffee shop. So in the morning, I walked and got coffee, and I'm like, oh, I'll go to this place. It was open, and I walk in. I was like looking at the tarot cards. I'm like, oh, and they had some wonderful, beautiful decks, and I was like, and I said that a lady asked if she could help me, and I was like, oh no, I'm just kind of like looking. I did end up buying a deck. It was really nice, but I was like, when I said the tarot, I really like your tarot cards. She was like, yes, there are some really nice tarot cards. And then later in the thing, I said it like she was correcting me again, and I was like, oh. And then the rest of the time, I got back in my car, I was driving to my destination, and I was like, have I been saying it wrong the whole time? Is that a thing? Does anyone know? Is it like really called tarot cards?
I have only heard like pretentious,
right?
Yeah, that was a particular thing.
Yeah, okay. I thought it was funny because like for a while I was like, I don't know what was happening, and then I was like, wait, or have I been wrong the whole time?
I do that a lot though, because there's words that I've only ever seen written.
Yeah.
I've never heard them spoken aloud.
Right.
Yeah.
This feels like me just realizing that I don't understand what umami means, and I think I never will. I don't understand umami. Have I given you this drunken rant yet? I used to think that umami just meant like salt, but like kind of fishy. So then when people are like talking about desserts that are umami, I'm like, why would you have a brownie that's a little fishy? That sounds not great. And now I just think that I would never understand what umami actually means.
I have never heard of desserts be described as umami, and that kind of disturbs me because I associate it with like earthy or smoky, like soy sauce or mushrooms.
Yeah, mushroom. I think of like a mushroom, but yeah, and sometimes I think fish sauce is definitely umami. But yeah, like I feel like again, it's one of those things where like it kind of means something different to everyone. I feel like salt is definitely involved. That's all I know.
Yeah,
it's savory.
Yeah, it's like it's glutamate. It's like the same stuff in MSG. Or tomatoes.
I want to do a podcast where it's just 5-minute episodes where I try to make every chef I can find explain to me what umami means exactly.
Right. The search for umami.
Very well. I would listen to that for sure.
Yeah,
no question about it.
Tarot is the thing.
I love them tarot cards. Tarot. You mean tarot? I was like, I guess.
I fully will, like, that thing that lives rent-free in my head is in a college English class, like, reading out loud, and I totally was like, yeah, the Borgios. I know what the word is, but just, like, having to read in real time, my brain was like, yeah, no, that's how we say that word here.
Yeah,
well, we are. It's about I see a couple of folks who are on the East Coast are saying farewell.
Late for them.
This is usually about the witch. Well, the reason WUFO is when it is because John Keel said statistically that this was the time to do it. So typically we cut things off at 10, but we don't have to do hard and fast. Is it? Anybody have anything else they want to do or?
I did want to ask a question before everyone left, but go ahead. Someone else was also talking.
Oh, I was just asking if we still wanted to show that quick alien communicator thing.
You could also do that.
Yeah. Should I do that, or you want to ask your question? Or
Ask a
My
question.
My question was very brief and unrelated to anything, but I thought of it earlier today, and I just really wanted to know if all of you could have one cryptid or mythological animal be real, what would it be? That's all I wanted to know.
That is such a good question. Oh my god.
Mothman? All right, I got you. Yes, 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 yes. He's so soft. I love that particular Build-A-Bear Mothman.
I'm obsessed with him. I've got like 80 Mothmans. Like there's one up in the corner. Like
Beautiful.
You know, I would have to go with the Grafton monster because it seems so like lovely and friendly the way it was described. It was like this like white creature with no head, you know, like it looked like there's like a sadness about it, or this
I have not heard it.
melancholic. Oh, look up the Grafton monster; it's a great one. And you know, it's yeah,
But
I
not
think it might
the
be the Grafton
squonk.
monster. I mean, I love the squonk. Yeah, I mean, like any one of these is a great answer, if in my opinion. But like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with the Grafton monster just because I feel like I've always wanted to hug it. Seems
I-
so sweet and lovable.
I'm
I was
Googling
going to
it.
say the squonk specifically because I've always wanted to cheer him up.
Yeah.
Oh.
Hug a squonk.
Yeah.
Hug a squonk.
This
That should be
bumper
a shirt.
It should.
Yeah.
It should. It
Yeah.
should.
Yes, Fresno
Night
Nightcrawlers.
Yeah.
So
That's a
good.
good one.
Fresno Nightcrawlers. Yes, I mean the Grafton monster is not really. It's described fairly kind of similar in a way. Oh, maybe that's what the Grafton monster is. Oh, that's nice. Wow, your stuffed animal game or plush stuffed
I know,
cookie game is strong.
I'm probably packing too many stuffed animals for a 36-year-old woman, but
No. There's not,
Never
there's not-
enough.
You need more.
No. What about you, Kai?
I think Colossal Claude, our local Oregon coast Nessie type creature, supposed to have a sea serpent out here. I would like one that I could go visit on the regular. You know,
That's
That
rad.
What about you, Garrett?
I have to say Shrimpy, the giant shrimp in the
Oh,
laundry room, because
Of
I
course.
live
That's
in
rad.
Bremerton, and like, yeah, it's like,
Shrimpy.
yeah.
That's rad.
Oh, yeah. I thought about this and I was thinking I would possibly choose griffins because it would be really cool.
Hmm.
Maybe you could ride them, but then I thought about
Maybe
The
you can ride them.
yeah, the conversation that we had, like I think the first time I was on WUFO with y'all, and I have to settle on jackalopes purely to open the jackalope
Oh.
ranch to be
Right.
able to like have jackalope milk and jackalope cheese and just
No,
like
why
live
would you
this
go with
life
that?
in the desert.
No.
I want you to be real because I want your cheese.
okay, so when we get our special piece of land, let's put it in jackalope country so
There
we
you
can
go.
manifest the jackalope ranch.
That's
I love
thinking.
this.
That's
Thank you for indulging me.
No, that's a great question and very fun. Very fun.
all right. I'm going to show this video. Bear with me while I do the technical stuff real quick because it never works the first time.
Jackalope should be a country.
There is jackalope country.
Let's see here. Present. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, that's not the right screen. You're looking at all my private chats.
We can
Uh,
see your
that looks
chats
like-
in Garrett's face.
I have
well, the
looks like
Garrett
my
face
friend
one is the right. I just shared the wrong window. My bad. All right, let's try this again. Sorry to my next door neighbor who was asking a question. Trash can. There we go. All right, now do we see it?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And then find it. This is always so much more of a hassle than you'd think it would be.
I mean, I would never be able to do it.
And okay, is it fuller now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
No
Can't hear
sound.
it now.
no sound. Because I had this muted. Okay, I said I had it.
Still no sound.
Oh,
Still no sound?
Yeah.
Oh man, what's going on
Well, you
here?
just post it on.
Yeah, I'll just have to
Yeah.
post it on the social.
yeah.
Summer, sorry.
Are you gonna put it on the? Are you gonna put it on the Blue Sky?
Yeah.
On
we'll put
the
it
Blue
on.
Sky.
It's on there. We'll repost it or whatever.
Please do. Please do.
I hate the word skeet, so we're not.
We skeet. Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
No, that doesn't have to be called
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
It's a choice.
Yeah.
What mastodons are called like toots
They were called toots. Yeah.
on Mastodon because it's like an elephant or something, or I don't know. And I think the person doesn't realize because it came from like Germany or something. They don't realize it means fart basically here. So,
Yeah.
We're so crude here.
yeah,
Good Lord.
I mean, in Germany, they have a lunch meat that essentially translates to dead grandma. So
Whoa.
they're,
Yeah. Well.
they've got their own stuff going on.
Yeah. Everyone's got their own stuff going on. That's a great way of putting it, though. Very true.
Is it any good?
If you're into like head cheese kind of situations, then it's fine.
I've never had head cheese, but I feel like it reminds me of Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2 because that's like a part. I mean, like that movie messed me up more than the first one because it was kind of like a comedy, but like it was so disturbing. I don't know. We shouldn't talk about it. I can't even talk about it.
Not
Too
appropriate bedtime thoughts.
No.
Well, this was a real blast.
yeah. Thank
It was
you.
a real blast. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Thanks for
Anytime.
coming and
Yeah, that was so fun. Hey, if you ever want to do the Twin Peaks role playing or the Lugley, whatever that is, I am in.
Awesome. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me, my friend. It's really
Yeah.
great to meet you all. This is a lot of fun. I love what you guys do.
And tell the universe where they can find you.
You can find me at Bergmaster5000 is like my social media situation. And then I have a podcast called Hi, which is HI, Strangeness. And I talk about a lot of 40 topics. We get weird over there. So yeah, check it out. It's fun.
Awesome. Yeah, and in 2 weeks we're gonna have another guest who was recently on your podcast. Amanda Paulson is going to be joining us.
Amanda's great.
Who we love. Yeah.
Have her talk about the paranormal touch point.
Yeah.
I love it. I mean, she's doing some very interesting things. I really like her work. Great person too. So
yes, yeah,
she's gonna be an awesome guest.
That was a few episodes of your show back, if I recall correctly, and it was a great listen. It was really
Thank you. Yeah, I so enjoyed speaking with Amanda. She's great. Yeah, and the paranormal touch point. I'm always excited when people have something new because I'm like, I've never thought about this, and like, I really like it. It's a great idea. Like,
yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah.
2 weeks. We'll have more.
I can't wait to watch.
Say about that. So it'll be fun. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Cool.
Thank you, guys.
Well, thank you all so much, and thank you, chat. And some lovely. You guys have a very lovely crew.
Thank you.
All good vibes, which I like. You know, that doesn't always happen in chats. I've been in some where they get a little nasty.
We keep it friendly in here.
Yeah,
We're the nice weirdos.
Life is too short, especially in this era. I'm done with sons of bitches. You know.
Absolutely. Unless they're my sons of bitches.
And that's exactly right. Yeah. Well, hey, thanks so much. This is a lot of fun. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks so
Thank
much.
you.
I hope you guys have something wonderful to eat this weekend.
You too.
Thank you.
And I hope everybody goes out and looks up in the sky for a little bit.
I love that. I'm going to tonight, actually, right now. I do every night and say hi, UFO buddy.
Report back if you see anything.
I will. I certainly will.
Yes.
Thank you. Sweet dreams, everyone. Take care.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.